All right, y'all, it's, the holiday season, things are about to get really busy, and, we're all about to start feeling good about the way things are going in our independent record shops. But of course, it gets busy this time of year, it's going to slow down again. And, I kind of just wanted to talk about, the way the industry is going and stuff like that. And really the reason I want to talk about it is because I saw somebody share a Substack post by Neill Jameson. You can find him at fuckmusic.substack.com. I didn't read it right away. Thankfully, his URL is easy to remember. And so I went back and I found it. And the post that I'm referring to is The Slow Murder of Physical Media and the Music Industry, which came out on November 28th, which was Black Friday, very, timely. But then this morning he sent another newsletter out called The Importance of the Record Store and Physical Media. And then I think that's the one that really made me feel like I wanted to talk about this a little bit more. Because, the slow murder of physical media in the music industry, that blog post, and Neill Jameson, I did some research in a black metal band called Craig, which we've had copies of their records in the shop before. So, been in the game a long time, as he mentions in his article, worked at a record store, has run labels, has been in bands since the 90s, has been in this for a long time and has seen all of the different waves and stuff. So, if you needed to legit check him, it's as legit as it gets. So anyway, Slow Murder of Physical Media in the Music Industry, that blog post, obviously dealing a lot with the Record Store Day, Black Friday stuff. We know the list is crap. We know that they run that enterprise like an authoritarian regime, a dictatorship, honestly kind of an oligarchy, because they only value the most wealthy of, shops. But anyway, I've already talked enough about them. But, all the different variants, all the different Taylor Swift variants, the 4 different CDs she did, all the different records that she did, and not just her, Olivia Rodrigo's done it, Billie Eilish, a lot of pop stars, Adele, a lot of these major label stars, whether it's because they want it or because the label wants it, like they are releasing a ton of variants of these things, and that is obviously an issue because, the records get more expensive, they're bleeding consumers dry, which of course it's on us to make those decisions, but let's be real, they know that some of these fan bases are so adamant about supporting, these artists that they have these parasocial relationships with. They know they're going to get it from them, and it's a whole other thing. Let's talk about the good stuff though, because today's blog post, The Importance of the Record Store and Physical Media, is as he says in the post itself, not super cynical, but, pretension aside. And honestly, everyone should go subscribe to this because I really like the kind of personal approach of Jameson's writing. He writes just like I assume that he talks, and it feels like you're having a conversation with him. It's really a great read and also, very insightful. Anyhow, there were a couple of things that stuck out to me in this blog post that I feel are important. And the first one that kind of when I read this sentence, I knew that I needed to make a video about this. And look, some of it comes from, my own issues and, a chronic feeling of being undervalued or underappreciated or underrecognized or whatever. That's my own shit. But at the same time, there is a lot of truth in this statement. And it's, he's talking about how many musicians have you heard that said they felt lost and alienated until they walked into a record store and some clerk opened them up to a whole new world of sound. I'm paraphrasing, but this is almost a direct quote from the blog post. And, all of a sudden they felt like they found community, they found their home, stuff like that. But also anybody can go into any record store, and this happens to me all the time, especially being downtown in, Corpus Christi where we're located. People will come in and be like, hey, is there any good places to eat around here? Are there any good places to grab a drink? Where is the best live music? And, we're from here. This is our home. We know the answers to those questions, and we send people to the places that we love and the places that love us back. And so he said, independent record stores help power the local economy, and I believe this to be true. People, like I just said, people come in asking for recommendations all the time. We put people on to other stores in town. We send people to, the other 2 shops in town, Needles and Fins, Disco Around. When people ask us what other shops are there, we tell them those are the 2 places you should go. And then if you still haven't scratched that itch, yeah, you can go to Half Price Books or whatever. So that's something that I feel like when we're talking about independent record stores, and when people go into independent record stores, being able to just like say like, oh, hey, do you have this one album that I want? Like, we probably don't, but we have a lot of other good stuff, and we have a lot to offer other than just what we sell. And aside, like, commerce aside, from a community perspective, and this is something I've been going on about for the last 10 years, is the independent record store has a lot of value in your community, and it's not just about purchasing stuff. And I think that that's important, and something that we often don't discuss when we talk about these things in our industry in general. So that has a lot to do with the importance of the record store specifically, and its function in a community. But then, obviously the title of the post is the importance of the record store and physical media. And this is also something that I feel very strongly about as somebody who likes things. Like, I like stuff. I've always had a lot of stuff, whether it be like music equipment, guitar pedals, guitars, DVDs, Blu-rays. I have 2 VCRs for whatever reason. I don't need to, but who knows? I might one day. My box of RCA cables and stuff that every music nerd or musician has a box of cables somewhere that they may or may not need. But when you need it, you're going to be glad you have it. Anyway, so he makes a couple of points that I would just like to point out and that's the wrong word, enthusiastically agree with, and that is that records do not disappear in the cloud. I found out a few years ago, if you read Amazon's terms of service, when you buy a movie on Amazon, which I have done, as much as I hate Amazon, I own a few movies on there, you don't own it. They can take it away at any time. And that's not even having anything to do with, like, if Amazon goes out of business and the servers go down, which of course is never going to happen, but that's something you worry about with maybe smaller streaming services or digital providers or whatever. They can just yank your shit at any time, which is crazy because I paid $14.99 for this digital copy of Josie and the Pussycats. What do you mean you can just take it from me? So that if a streaming service goes down, or you don't have internet, like in the case of like an internet outage at the house, or in South Texas, we have these like biannual winter freezes, and we have tropical storms and hurricanes and stuff. And there have been plenty of times where like the actual cable that connects my internet has gone out, and we'll get power back, but it'll take maybe a week to get the internet back. And guess what? I got DVDs, baby. I got records. Like, we have stuff that if we have power, or even if we don't have power, like I have battery-powered portable turntables. Like, I still have the media. Like, it's not gone to me. It's still accessible. So that's one really, like, ownership over convenience, I think, is really important, especially, under capitalism. Everyone stresses ownership. Oh, you have to buy a house because of equity. Oh, you should pay for your car in cash because that's equity, and then you don't, whatever. We don't have to get into finance stuff, but in a society where we stress ownership so much of everything else, but not of art, kind of weird. So records don't disappear. You own them for potentially forever. Like Neill Jameson says in the article, if you take good care of your stuff, then potentially you own this forever. Another thing is, right now, economy, shit. We all know this. A very, very small percent of the population owns a very, very large percentage of the wealth, and they're making sure that they keep it and none of it gets to us. So yeah, a lot of us, myself included, experiencing hard times, etc. Now, for me, records are a necessity because I'm a psycho, but for a lot of people, this is considered a luxury item, or, something frivolous, and it's, we're the first thing that gets cut out of people's budgets. So if you own those records, you can keep listening to them. Even if you can't afford to buy new ones, you have the ones that you've already purchased. So it is like a great, like, long-term investment for you as a music enjoyer, in case things ever get rough and you can't buy records maybe at the same pace that you were when things were going better. But that also, because you do own them, you can then go sell them to your local record shop and turn them into new ones. You get store credit, whatever. And of course, all of this stuff is stuff that's in this blog post that I am just reiterating, and because I agree with it so enthusiastically, I guess none of this are original ideas or whatever, but I am taking a lot of this straight from the blog post, so I'm not trying to pass this stuff off as my own. And this is something that I've always, the third point is, these things are a biography of your life, right? These records, like I have records, like for instance, I have a record by a band called Secret Plot to Destroy the Entire Universe. Is it a record that I listen to all the time? Not necessarily, but I played 2 shows with that band when my band was on tour in Vancouver, Washington, and Boise, Idaho. They were from Philadelphia, I believe. They ran their own label, Cat Cat Records. That is not a record that I'm really ever going to see anywhere again. I have multiple copies of it for that reason. When the label went, I don't think it went out of business, but they decided to stop running the label. And I have fond memories of seeing that band and being blown away by them while playing a show that only 5 people attend. Like, the shows were not well attended. Both of those shows were bookending a festival in the middle. Everyone went to the festival. Nobody went to those shows. But that was like such a fun time because it was a huge lineup. It was Turnover, Citizen, Stick Up Kid, Light Years, Secret Plot to Destroy the Entire Universe, Placeholder, like these bands of this very specific time. And I have records by almost all of them. Placeholder, I still have those records. I still have my Turnover Citizen split from that era. And when I pull those records out, I remember playing that soda shop in Vancouver, Washington, where nobody was there. I got a great experience out of it, but as far as a show goes, whatever. But and these are all things that I think are super important because they attach us to a place and time. They remind us of who we are in a way that doing this digitally cannot. Or doesn't to the same degree, at least. I know I've been rambling about all this, but I think everyone should go subscribe to fuckmusic.substack.com. And I think that, especially now in, the way the economy is going, the way that the music industry in general is going, the way that the powers that be view small independent record stores these days, see my last full-length video, it's important now more than ever for us as the people on, that are boots on the ground, so to speak, that aren't sitting in some executive suite office somewhere making decisions about what should and shouldn't happen to and for independent record stores. It's our job to remind people that this is what it's about. This is what we're here for. This is why we are valuable. And I mean, I talked about this recently on my Instagram, looking back on the last 10 years of the shop, because we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And, I am getting fatigued by having to prove my value or prove the shop's value or constantly convince people that we have value, via self-promotion and all these things that go with social media and running a business. And as tired as I am of it, or as exhausting as it can be, as difficult as it can be to have your worth as a human be equated to your production under this economic system, it is still important that we do it, because if nobody else is writing blog posts like Neill Jameson is, if nobody else is making videos like all of the vinyl community does, shouts out to everybody that does it, then it's going to go, what people are going to forget. I mean, that happened already, right? We saw it with Napster and stuff. So, a lot of things that are happening in the world have happened already, and we didn't learn from them. So let's, I know this is a longer video. I'm not going to edit it because why would I? I said what I said. But Anyway, I was just really kind of struck by reading these two posts and felt like, I wanted to parrot a lot of what he said. And I do think it's important. I really do. And I hope that, if you walk into a record shop for the first time, I hope that it strikes you the way it struck me. I hope that, you see how special whatever store you walk into is. And, that we can all continue to engage and be a part of the community and be a part of growing it. And, that we all represent the best of what we can be. That's always what I'm trying to do. So that's it. Congrats to you if you stayed all the way to the end. I know it was a long one, but thank you so much for watching.